Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. Where we'll be discussing unlocking affiliate revenue through creators, communities, and forums, essentially the long tail, which is my favorite area of affiliate marketing. My name's Amy Scanlon. I'm the GM of the affiliate practice here at Right Side Up. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Right Side Up, we're a collective of marketing specialists who've helped more than 1,000 companies hit their growth goals. We have expertise across all marketing functions, including performance marketing, lifecycle, SEO, social analytics, and creative, to name a few. And by designing the right strategies and deploying the right talent, from freelancers to fractional leaders to FDEs to custom-built agency teams, we empower companies of all stages and sizes to keep growing. But enough about that. Before we begin, let's cover just a few housekeeping items. So please note that all the participants, except myself and Ewen, have been muted. This is supposed to be interactive and a live panel discussion, so please provide us with some fabulous questions in the Q&A module throughout the webinar. And if we don't get to my promise, we'll follow up with you. And lastly, an email with the recording will be sent tomorrow. So please look out for that in your email. All right, let me introduce who I have with me. I'm thrilled to be joined by Ewen Finser, the CEO of ReddVisible. And ReddVisible, for those of you that don't know, it's the first growth agency dedicated to helping brands leverage Reddit to drive traffic, sales, and audience engagement. Ewen, is there anything you want to say to introduce yourself?
No, I mean that's great. I think I've been, for some context, I've been in the publishing space for over a decade. So I have that background. Venture Forth Media is kind of our publishing arm. So I may have worked with some folks in the audience under that umbrella as well, and we're kind of merging those worlds with ReddVisible and soon to launch Scale Visible, which will be kind of like the bridge between the two. But yeah, that's a great summary, and really excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, before we get started and kick off the Q&A with all of those smart, I see so many smart folks in the chat. Let's start with a quick poll. So, has your affiliate program been updated to incorporate AI-driven SEO and user-generated content? Really excited to see what everybody says here. We'll just give it a minute or two, and then you and we'll know what kinds of questions we're going to be hit up
Yeah.
with. Oh, I see some. Oh, wow. This is great. I'm seeing some really awesome answers coming in. Oh, we're going to give it just a few more seconds here. I see that it's, I wish you guys could see what I'm seeing. Maybe you can. It's fun to see the yeses, the nos, not sures. Um, Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. Wow, 56% said no. 26% said yes. So cannot wait for you all to share what you're doing with Ewan and I. And then 19% said not sure. So let's because of the not sures, Ewan, what I think we should do is let's do a quick exercise. Um, because we got this fantastic question from Bob before the webinar, and he said some big publishers and niche blogs are hit by Google's site reputation policy and Google AI overview in search traffic. He's wondering how should brands optimize the performance of these partners for their affiliate program. And what I thought we could do is let's just illustrate what some of those changes are, and maybe we can take a quick look at HubSpot versus Salesforce.
Yeah.
Do you mind, giving us here a lesson of what has been changing with AI-driven SEO?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to do mostly a practical demo, but I think the high level, like, about a year and a half ago, there was, I think that's the start of this whole sequence of events where Google held the helpful content update and I think site reputation abuse, that was one of the things, and AI was happening at the same time. So it's been a very pivotal kind of transformative year and a half. And for us, it was like, that was our journey, right? As a publisher, we started to see less traffic. And so we saw firsthand and probably the front line, like we were on the front lines of that. And we felt that immediately. And I think later on, brands started feeling that as it went up the food chain. And they're like, wait, why are clicks dying off and things like that? So that's like the paradigm shift and kind of the rise of UGC. But let me just share my screen to kind of give an example. I picked this example, and Amy, let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay, yeah, I could see.
So HubSpot and Salesforce, like, two B2B heavyweights, but you can insert whatever terms you care about kind of into your vertical. And this is the kind of the analysis that I do every day when I'm working with brands or even for our own kind of publishing sites. You can see here the first thing you're hit with is this giant Search Labs AI overview. Now it can vary a little bit depending on who you are, where you are, what time of day. Like these are very variable, more variable than organic search results used to be. So just that's a caveat, but you can kind of see, like, for all intents and purposes, this is the Google answer now. And you can scroll down, and I expanded it already, so you can kind of see the full answer here. But you see instead, you have on the right, you have basically the cheat sheet for like what is influencing this answer. It's not, this is probably more that they're using than just these, but you can see that with the featured in prominence, like Reddit, this Reddit thread from May of 2023 is directly driving sentiment in the summary in this result. You can see some of the other places, HubSpot's blog, Zapier, some actual publishers and things like that are still in the mix. Technology Advice, folks like that,
Mm-hmm.
G2 Crowd. But you can see Reddit is number one, which is a huge paradigm shift. And then if we go down below, you see the first organic outside of AI is this Reddit pack. And
Right.
the couple things to notice about that is it's not only is it first, but it's also a bigger result than your, like, Zapier is maybe half the size of this Reddit answer. So it's getting more physical real estate, and there are multiple opportunities here. There's multiple links. In this case, there's three. Sometimes there's up to five in text links, and so it's like definitely an opportunity here, but also a huge disruption to the model. Think about how much money HubSpot and Salesforce probably spend on marketing, and now all of a sudden these random threads, from their perspective, are just ranking, and they have very little control over that as exists today. So you see Reddit there. Then you see we have some traditional Zapier, HubSpot. So brand content still doing quite well. And Zapier, I put like kind of like third-party content, but they're kind of a weird example because they rank for everything. But then you see, okay, here's another discussions and forums, which is a new search feature. And that didn't exist, a couple of years ago. And you can see here we go again. There's
Wow.
Reddit, the HubSpot community is ranking, and then Quora.
Communities. Mm.
And so now you
Mm-hmm.
have Quora in the mix. Okay, so like that's a new thing that Quora used to never really rank on the first page unless it was a super kind of low competition search
Yeah.
term. And then you have publishers again. Oh, and then here we go. And then we have videos. YouTube is now also getting a lot of preference. And I kind of put YouTube in that. It's kind of like, it is sort of UGC, but it can be editorial, but it's in that same third party bucket that I'm very interested in exploring right now. But some of these are popping up, and more search examples, and these things are, YouTube videos are often very quick to index. So that's a very nice opportunity, but again, a disruption to how search traditionally was. And then we come down, oh, here's another search feature. This was launched 2 months ago. It's called What People Are Saying, which is basically from social networks and some of these third-party platforms. You see Reddit again getting a feature. You see YouTube getting a feature. LinkedIn, there's a lot, I think, of coverage on we call parasite SEO on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is kind of in that bucket. And then we actually have Medium making a cameo
Mm-hmm.
here. So that's another
Yeah.
name to watch. I wouldn't put it in the top three in terms of these UGC landscapes, but something that is having a moment. And then we see LinkedIn and Reddit again. But you kind of see this is a good example in one search result, kind of that
Right.
shows all of the different changes that are happening and how they're all happening at once and really disrupting, like, where are the 10 blue links? They're it's a whole
For
different
sure.
ballgame.
And I mean, it's really disrupting the current state of affiliate in terms of the known playbook, the tried and true, right? Which is, working with digital media publications and review sites that, monetize free traffic. But now all of a sudden they're not showing up where they used to show up. So they're working on their traffic acquisition diversification. And the buyer funnel itself is starting more from people, right, than
Yep.
it is from Google. So buyers are looking to people for discovery, consideration, purchase, and advocacy. So you have buyer behavior has changed with giving creators, community, and forums a very large seat at the growth table and in the spotlight, and then the rise of AI. And so when we think about Bob's question, which is how should brands optimize the performance of partners in their affiliate program? In my opinion, I think affiliate programs now have to align to your organic. I mean, affiliate programs, they're not a channel. They fill the gaps of every channel.
Yeah.
But I think today they're best aligned with organic, social, and community, and either however you call it, AI SEO or GEO, generative engine optimization, but aligning where your brand needs to start producing content, where LLM data is being pulled, and then you conquest through affiliate partnerships. Is that what would you agree, or what do you
Yeah,
think?
I think so I can speak from a publisher perspective and I can share my experience from the outside looking at brands. I don't have a brand, so I don't know quite what's going
Right.
on internally, but from a publisher perspective, yeah, the traffic is down for a lot of these big publishers, the kind of traditional
Yeah.
organic traffic. And so publishers are trying to find other sources. But I think the kind of the subtext to it all and the writing on the wall is this AI kind of future where, the relying on, particularly for like informational search or kind of in the awareness stage, that kind of content is going to be answered by an AI or chatbot, whether we like it or not. We might want to use old Google, but we're going to get this big summary. And for most consumers, this is Google. Google said whatever this search lab said. They're not really necessarily distinguishing between the AI and the human in the same way that we are as marketers. But yeah, I think and I think another point, the point I've tried to make on the performance side is breaking down the funnels and the silos between the different kind of marketing functions. There's value being created by your affiliates in terms of the third-party content they're creating, and publishers are still there. They're just not getting as much traffic, but they're still being used specifically in the AI answers. And so they're providing value. It's just the value chain is broken. And so how we describe value and how we calculate value, I think, has shifted. And so when we're talking to brands, it's often like being able to work, hey, there's a social media use case, there's an organic SEO use case, there's a kind of an AI, whatever we're going to call it, Gen AI use case. And there's a performance marketing element that we can still use links and we can still track, we can still drive sales, but that's not the entire the entire landscape. It's a more complicated picture, but I think there's
Yeah.
also more opportunity for brands that can break their own silos and it kind of unlock spend and not have it just purely in like when are you going to make me my money back on this link that we placed in this
Totally.
article.
Oh my God, I have so many points on that. I'm so excited. I've always thought that affiliate is not, a channel, that it fills
Yeah.
gaps and areas you can't and won't do internally. And partnerships and performance creative to me are the two areas of marketing that cover all channels. Partnerships add value at owned, earned, and paid. And with the shift of the buyer funnel and the rise of AI, to build defensible affiliate programs, you have to unlock the value and the volume in the long tail. And those long tail, the creators, they build brand equity, adding value to owned. They drive earned media value, EMV, in the owned earned channels, and then they drive performance. And so I think the buyer behavior and AI partnerships will start to break down those silos, and will finally start to evaluate their full value on owned, earned, and paid. A lot of times brands, in my experience, they dip their toes in one form of partnership marketing and never take a step back as to what their overall framework and strategy is to partnerships as a whole and evaluating them. And so I think we're starting to see that creators are driving performance, but also creating UGC for the core channels and bringing down the cost there, but also helping with email, helping on your Amazon store, etc. So it's really exciting if you can unlock communities and forums and creators and start to evaluate partners for their full value they can add. But in terms of the traditional affiliate partners and the digital media publications, they're so very important. I mean, OpenAI announced who they're partnering with to pull their data set from, and they're coming from the folks that we remember, are tried and true and traditional, the Business Insiders of the world and the Hearsts and the BuzzFeeds. So there's still room in your playbook, your affiliate playbook for them. But I do think it's two-pronged where the brand itself has to be producing great content themselves, syndicating that content to where the answers are being pulled from, and then conquesting and incenting them with a pay-per-performance structure to continue to promote the brand, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And it's definitely, yeah, it's a very interesting landscape right now. And there's a lot, yeah, a lot of different angles, but that's the one common problem I see is sometimes we have conversations and we're talking to one department and it's been that silo for a long time because that worked in the old kind of
Yeah,
paradigm. It worked like they're fairly like social is fairly different, but even if you think of Reddit as a platform, that's like Reddit is the thing we usually start with, but there's a whole, like we described, a whole landscape of kind of third party editorial and UGC, but Reddit itself is both it's a social media platform.
totally.
So people
Yeah.
are they're voting things, they're engaging with people. It's anonymous sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. There's viral things go viral, and there's that function. It's Reddit is also a search engine proxy, so
Yeah.
it's showing up in Google. And so people ask me like, what are the avatars on Reddit? And I'm like, well, anyone that was using Google,
Right.
my mom, like she uses Reddit. She doesn't really think of herself as a Reddit user, but like, what I'm saying, like everyone is a Reddit user now because of how
Sure.
prevalent Reddit is in Google and other search engines. Then you can think of Reddit as an AI source. So
Hmm.
people that are optimizing for AI should care about Reddit. You can also think about Reddit as a community building platform. You can get memberships, you can have audience engagement, you can ask questions, you can have a place. And we've even talked to teams that like for their customer support experience, they want to have an active community so that when they solve problems, they're being solved prominently, and so people
Mm.
then see those problem resolution things there and not have to blow up their direct support or go somewhere and complain on Reddit because they don't have a presence, they don't respond or
Right.
whatever. So there's like a variety of different use cases. And oh, by the way, Reddit is also a search engine itself that has a
Right.
search bar. And they just rolled out this thing called Reddit Answers, which is like a GPT, but
Hmm.
rather having it open web, they have it closed web, and they say this is just Reddit.
Yeah.
And so there's that GPT chat interface. So there's like a lot of things happening at once, and so having that conversation is like, well, which department owns Reddit? And that's a good question. I don't know.
For sure. And that's the funny thing is which department owns affiliate. I've seen affiliates sit in the growth marketing team, in the performance marketing team, and that makes sense because we can drive performance. I've seen affiliates sit in the brand team, and that makes sense because we build brand equity, drive earned media value. And that's why affiliate to me is everything is it should sit in all departments and push around that content being created and so valued by the org. It's so interesting. You have so many communities yourself on Reddit. So if for the audience here, when they're thinking about specifically through the lens of an affiliate program, like how do they leverage Reddit? How do they talk to the moderators? How would they think about this amazing platform and how it can be incorporated into their affiliate strategy?
Yeah, so I think there is the challenge with Reddit is links,
Yeah.
because the algorithm is very sensitive. Of course, it's the number one place to get spam now because it's so prevalent, and so people are trying to get their links in and add different kind of affiliate tracking codes. For certain link nomenclatures, like for Amazon, like they'll just kind of auto filter those. And like impact radius, I think it's auto filter. There's a couple that get filtered out automatically by the algorithm. So it is very, very tricky. You can occasionally get links in there, and we have some examples, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't count on that as durable evergreen content because it can be taken down, or some other angry Reddit user can complain that you're, trying to monetize or something. So um, there are a couple ways to do it. I think creating your own community is helpful because you can control the
Yeah.
sidebar. And so we like to
Right.
often create what we call affinity communities, like in your target market, where
Hmm.
um, you can talk about the pain points and have a community, but then make use of the sidebar, have calls to action. And that you're often able to add links into the sidebar much more easily than into like content hyperlinked into content. So that's
Right.
one thing you can try doing. The other thing we're having more success with recently is getting people off of Reddit with
Hmm.
non-affiliate links, but to like an intermediate kind of landing page. So that could be
Sure.
one of the blogs that we control. And often we're setting up subreddits for the blogs that we have. We're just saying, this is our official community. We're going to
Hmm.
distribute content here. And so you're kind of just doing a little summary and linking back to your content. So that's
Yeah.
one way. There's obviously some atrophy that happens there, but that can be a way to do it. Another
Hmm.
thing is YouTube. YouTube
Yeah.
is seen as a very friendly like Reddit UGC companion, and so
Hmm.
a YouTube link is not obviously directly monetized, but when someone's on that YouTube page, you can have different calls to action. You can monetize in the description. So those are some of the ways. The other way to do it would be a code-based attribution,
Hmm.
which is our friends at Revitrage do
Yeah.
that and very successfully. But the challenge there is often what I hear from brands is they get scared about getting that code out in the wild, and then
Yeah.
being able to unwind it. But that is a way to do it. I've also seen another example of how we're doing it with a couple brands is setting up internal landing pages on their brand site that
Hmm.
are maybe there's a slight little difference, like a different address or interior page that looks like a landing page, looks like their pricing page, but you're linking to the brand, not an affiliate link. I would say links as a whole that's the can of worms. The hardest links to get are direct affiliate links that you would build in your affiliate link dashboard. So finding
Right.
ways around that is kind of what we spend a lot of time doing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you're optimizing for AI sentiment and things like that, a lot of times brands come to us and their problem is there's a really negative Reddit result. It's a negative review and it's above the fold. It's the first answer when someone
Hmm.
searches review or even their
Always.
brand name. And cleaning up that is really important, even if like they're not just coming to us for PR, but cleaning that up is important because any other kind of user journey, but people sanity check like the review or the brand, people check multiple things. And so
Oh, for
if
sure.
it's like if you have a negative result, this is a scammy software or this is a product is junk, I hate it. Like we've had a bunch of those. Getting rid of that will help your entire funnel
Yeah.
be more performant.
For sure. And in other if we're talking about Reddit as a community, in other ways we've seen it done with some of our brand clients, particularly in the fintech space for Discord, is almost thinking about those communities and turning them into brand ambassadors. And so it's not really, we can talk about attribution next, but it's not really a direct affiliate link per se, but it's part of the consideration set in the research. And so having them on the side of the brand and mentioning the brand often will inevitably lead to an affiliate link somewhere else off of the community. I think I saw Linkbee just launched their Substack integration with being able to monetize Substack communities, I believe both the public and the private through CPC campaigns, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about attribution because, I feel like community and monetization is an oxymoron. God, I'd love to like monetize and get into Slack. So I think there are a lot of Slack communities have so many target ICPs, similar to Reddit and Discord and whatnot, but I don't see it happening. So when you're working with brands, how exactly do you or how do you approach tracking attribution from all the AI answer, AIO, kind of AI driven SEO initiatives that you work on?
That's really the AI stuff is really hard because there's a
Yeah.
lack of infrastructure. I'll even say on the Reddit side, there's a lack of infrastructure. The reason why we're having to do all these workarounds is because they haven't figured out. They're working on this thing called the creator economy, where
Oh
they
yeah,
might be doing some sort of like Substack like paid
sure.
communities or something, but they need to solve that problem too. There's no like they don't have the TikTok shops equivalent. There's no they don't want to put brands. They like if you're a creator or an influencer, that's not like a thing on Reddit. So there's a huge opportunity. But there's also this like gray area of like, well, there's no neat little bucket. When it comes to AI,
Right.
the best answer I have for this right now, I mean, there's a variety of new
Okay.
AI tracking tools that are coming out, like Rank Scale. I've seen there's a whole list somewhere that I was just looking at the other day, Otterly, where like it can track your ranking across different AI
Oh, cool.
landscapes. I think
Right.
that's one thing to look at is your ranking.
Sure.
for sure. But in terms of attribution, again,
Hmm.
it's tricky to get your affiliate link isn't going to necessarily get in the AI overview, but
Yeah.
it can be in the referenced
Hmm.
hyperlink, right? So I think
Sure.
thinking about each of those AI landscapes and thinking about what's the landing page, and where you can send people to and have them affiliated there. But short of having that, I would kind of look at it almost like, what's your paid spend?
Yeah.
And what's the ROAS for, like, because usually paid ad, right, in Google organic would be above the organic results. And usually AI overviews are above the organic results. So you can kind
Hmm.
of back into some assumptions there. It's not perfect, but I think
Sure.
not being afraid for brands to like make that estimate or guesstimate or whatever it is, and say, well, again, from the performance marketing space, a lot of it's like, well, what's the pencil out? How many clicks do you estimate, and all that kind of stuff. And it's important. I get it. But the problem is you can't really do that as well with AI overviews. And so I feel like some brands are caught in this. Well, we can't attribute, so we're not going to do it. That's not the right answer. And so it's like we'll
Yeah.
come up with a model. And I think as we go, as these AI platforms start monetizing and like figuring out, like, are they putting ads in there, or like we'll get some better data and analytics even. But like I think Google doesn't even report out AI overviews in constant Search Console or
Yeah, I
analytics.
don't
So
think
like,
so.
you don't know.
You don't
So
know.
it's a completely black box right now. So it's hard, but it's also like I think it's necessary. And so it's like that tricky
Yeah,
in
for
between
sure.
word.
I'm laughing in the chat here. Jason says he's never used Reddit once in his life, which I think is pretty amazing because I didn't think of myself as a Redditor either
Yeah.
until it started showing up in Google. And now I have to check myself because I find that I'm looking at, the AI overview for quick answers and I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
let me just, I gotta triangulate here. I need to like look at two, three sources. Is that really true? Is it
Yeah.
non-true?
And I think the
And so on.
rise of Reddit and the rise of AI are connected in a very important way.
Agreed.
Obviously, OpenAI has a relationship with Reddit, and Google had tried to roll out their own equivalent about a year or two ago, where they had like you can comment on the SERPs, and
Yeah.
it was terribly abused, and they shut it down right away. So they Reddit actually has something that Google doesn't, which is a built-in kind of feedback loop, upvoting, curation. And all Google has is an algorithm.
Yeah.
And so algorithms are actually, turns out are the easy thing. It's the human part. And so Reddit's kind of sitting on that. And so they're selling their insights, but now they're also rolling out their own GPT, and they're thinking of themselves as a human. They call them the human first search engine or discovery. So it's kind of this interesting friend or foe place, but
Yeah.
I think they're happening at the same time for a reason. Like AI is hungry. They've already stolen
Hmm.
all the content from publishers. And so
Sure.
where do they go to get real-time insights, particularly for breaking things, like breaking
Yeah.
news, new things that come out? And
Of
Reddit is
course.
perfect for that.
Yeah, for absolutely. Communities and forums. It's I truly believe that Reddit as a brand, Reddit has to be a part of your strategy for organic social community, but also for affiliate and conquesting because it's for affiliate, it's easy to monetize conversations that are already happening out there and slot yourself in. That's the lowest hanging fruit. And so one question that we had earlier was how how do brands go about their brand reputation, cleaning it up, strengthening brand equity on Reddit? Particularly, you touched on it earlier, but particularly if there's negative sentiment out there, how do they raise that to start and then, build out their communities and monetization strategies?
Yeah, so I will say that like Reddit is the hardest place, to market, right? To in the traditional sense, they have a very aversion to marketing. In fact, that's why I think a lot of consumers are going to Reddit. And before this whole change happened, you saw consumers app-ending Reddit. They'd be like, best running
Mm,
shoes Reddit, because they're trying to
hmm.
circumvent the marketing stack. And so that's another kind of reading the tea leaves, like why Google has made some of these changes.
Right.
So yeah, so I think like how do you clean up your reputation? That is a tricky one. Obviously, there's a lot of work involved, and I think the number one trick or I guess insight would be the traditional PR playbook kind of
Hmm.
says go respond, go address your concerns honestly, and answer questions and like jump in that chat that's had that negative review and try to change their minds, or at least offer a counterpoint. My point of view is do not do that.
No. Okay.
Because the more you comment, the more it feeds the beast. And the
Yeah.
number one correlation that I've seen between a Reddit thread ranking highly in Google or not are the number of comments and the level of
Mm.
engagement. And so if something, and so I would like to do the gap analysis first of like, okay, of the Reddit, in the Reddit pack, what do we have? There's the first position, the big one, and there's like three or four links below, little links. What do each of those landscapes look like? Those are the finalists. There's of course probably 10 or 20 potential links they could have added in that pack. But what are the ones that what is the sentiment of each one? And you kind of make that analysis. Well, if the second one or the third one is more neutral or net positive, how could we build that one up? Could we comment in there and try to get that up? But the number one thing that we spend a lot of time doing is actually creating new content, net new content, and
Oh, I
starting new
see.
discussions. And
Sure.
so a lot of times what we stumble across with brands is that it's often an old thread with a lot of comments.
Hmm.
But oftentimes it's like, someone had a supply chain issue in 2020 or 21 because of COVID. And like, yeah, it was a crappy situation, but it happened back then and it's now fixed. And so no one's going to scroll through all the comments to see your brand trying to respond way down number 85 in the comments. So better off to like help seed new conversations. And that's kind of where we spend a lot of time is kind of
Yeah.
platforming creators to have those conversations. I've seen some brands kind of turning, if they have influencers or fans or loyalty programs, like just like you would do for like Trustpilot or Yelp,
Yeah.
leave a review.
Incenting.
Go
Hmm.
leave us a review in Reddit, or can you help
Yes.
us comment, share your experience in this specific thread? Um,
Exactly.
you
Yeah, we
know,
do that. We incent them, in the places and deploy our little army of affiliates and brand ambassadors, particularly the creators in the places that we need. It's so interesting. When I've worked with you, I really think of you as similar to cleaning up debt. Where
mm,
we're riding your coattails, right? Because you are a moderator, because moderators multiple times, and you have karma points. We kind of piggyback on those and clean up brand reputation and equity and build the new content. If brands weren't working with you, like would you suggest they just start with creating new content and essentially kill Reddit with kindness and get new stuff to?
the easiest thing to do that I'd recommend brands doing is just own your handle.
I see.
And
Mm,
start with
hmm.
that. In the early days when this started happening, of course, I'm a SEO hacker by definition. So I started registering all these big brands. I registered their subreddit handle. And then, of course, people started commenting with questions in there and they started build snowballing. Now they have a bunch of members. And now I
Mm,
happen to be the moderator of this subreddit. And that's totally acceptable with Reddit. Anyone can own the subreddit. Microsoft users, there's no like brand territory that Reddit's going to give you preference because you're the brand. In fact, there's almost a culture of anti-brand. But if you can set up, and we've seen this successfully with a bunch of different clients, if they can set up their own subreddit to just have those conversations happen in there in a place where they can influence them or respond to them right away or moderate bad actors out, like that's a
hmm.
whole different like create a community where all the questions and problems can surface that you have some control over
Yeah.
versus letting it happen in third party communities or having a bad actor try to take down your brand, talk about like negative
Right.
SEO, negative Reddit
Yeah.
strategy to take you out. And so kind of own that community. And a very simple mechanism would be like I like Beehive's subreddit,
Oh, I
and
do too. Hmm.
they have like comments and questions and announcements, but then they also sprinkle in some of their blog content. So
Yeah.
they connect their Reddit community to the rest of their marketing stack, and the
Yeah.
YouTube video they'll link to that. And so it's kind of like think of it almost like a subdomain that anyone can have that you can have where you can share your existing content too or modify it for Reddit and have a summary and a link.
Yeah, I really
And
like the
yeah.
platform like approach because in a lot of the B2B affiliate programs we work on, Beehive is a fantastic partner of ours. And so we kind of like kill two birds with one stone based on their platform efforts. Quick question, if we talked about negative sentiment. We had a question coming around how can you get UGC and testimonials off of forums, right? Because UGC is so valuable. It's what helps win in the core channels, trying to keep up with that creative repository because the algorithms have gotten so great, but also helps for Amazon in the storefront. So, do you have any thoughts for us there?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think that I don't have as much experience in that specifically, but
Mm,
I'm imagining someone speaking about getting permission to use that.
yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, that's again, this is the Wild West right now. I don't know what rules are. I actually have an attorney friend who was talking the other day and is like, yeah, there needs to be some sort of structure. I'm like, yeah, there probably should be, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what
right,
the rules are. I think the right answer would probably be to reach out to that person and see if you can use it. But again, like who owns that? Is it technically Reddit owns it? And so like, but Reddit
right, for
doesn't.
sure.
Again, Reddit doesn't play. No one picks up the phone when you call Reddit unless you're paying for ads, in which case someone will pick up the phone and help you spend your money on paid
Yeah,
ads.
yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't have the answer to that either, but I do know how to get UGC from other areas. We've talked a lot about Reddit and we might go back to it, but I do want to address some of the questions that come in and encourage all of our listeners here. Throw in some questions. I find Ewan a wealth of knowledge and I'm always hitting him up for answers here. But one of the questions that we haven't addressed was Bob's follow-up questions. We talked in illustrated Google site algorithm,
Mhm.
the reputation changes, but he asked, well, how should brands optimize the performance of these partners for their affiliate program? And I think we touched a little bit on that. So I just want to plant that seed if there's anything else we could come back to. He also had a really fantastic question. Just around, as a brand, you might have direct to consumer affiliate program, an Amazon store, and an Amazon affiliate program, and a TikTok shop affiliate program. Like, how do brands evaluate and balance these channels? And for affiliates, and I think I might tackle that, but for
Yeah, please.
you and as a publisher, how do you think about where you monetize your link and where you send that? And from a brand perspective, I think if you're a direct to consumer website and you launch on a marketplace, maybe one is, okay, you have two choices of where to check out. But once you start launching on multiple marketplaces and with retail partners, you've created an omni-channel experience. And as a brand, you have now told your customers, hey, transact wherever you want. We're going to be there. And so I think brands have to have programs on all of the platforms and then they really need to think through their strategy, ensuring that the programs aren't competing with themselves unless it's a big event like Prime Days, right? You might pull
Mhm.
some tools in your tool belt to say, okay, we're going to increase commissions there, but essentially you're creating an experience and opening the door to partners that says, hey, you want to partner with us? We're here, there, and everywhere. So you decide what program you want to participate in. And then from the publisher perspective, I don't know, but I imagine you're looking at EPC and you know your audience and where they like to transact the most.
Yeah, I will say, definitely having options is key. I mean, like as a publisher, if I'm not on TikTok, I don't really care about TikTok Shop, right? Like, I
Right.
think if I'm on TikTok, yeah, that's a great place. And I would also come down to like, yeah, EPC is a big one. I think the trade-off for me was always historically around Amazon versus
Ah,
direct. We had that challenge all the time
sure.
where like a
Mm-hmm.
brand would try to activate us on their 10%, commission direct to consumer model and I'd be like, well, I'm getting 8% on Amazon. But like, yeah, but we're offering you more. But like, no, 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 the basket, the cart, the converts better, and just kind of showing them that. And so really effectively, I would ask for like a 20% sometimes commission to really have it be competitive with Amazon. So I think like,
Right.
yeah, having options, but also knowing, like you said, knowing your numbers on each one. And also like there's a ease of implementation is a huge one for publishers. Like there's a lot of tools around Amazon links, adding
Mm-hmm.
links, auto ad, or like keyword based, or just kind of link builders that sync easily. And so if you have some sort of weird setup, direct setup, there's there's again two issues. Sometimes it's implementation, how easy it is to build those links, because often you're in WordPress or some other platform, and it's tricky there's more work involved to get those links tracking properly. And sometimes there's a trust issue. We've had
Right.
issues with different platforms and different brands where they've
Mm,
rug pulled on their direct
yeah.
consumer. So I sometimes like to go to Amazon, or we'd start with Amazon as a starting point, because their program has been around for them. Yes, they changed their program too, but at least
Sure.
that their data is solid, and no one's going to be messing with your commissions after the fact.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of some of the considerations I might have.
Yeah. I also think on the brand side, when you have all these different programs, like you can't have the single view lens of performance only because, a lot of the TikTok shop affiliate programs we run, yes, they can drive performance, but we get a lot of UGC. We actually use that UGC on Amazon to drive our Amazon's sales. And we also use that TikTok shop UGC in other places like our email and lifecycle campaigns for the brand. So it's again talking about breaking down the silos and understanding the KPIs and the primary and the secondary KPIs for each one of those. We have a couple fantastic questions, so I want to
Okay.
move on. Oh, thank you for answering. And I hope I don't get your name wrong, Shadia. Thank you for that. We have another question from an anonymous attendee. Do you have any recommendations for getting more involved with relevant Reddit creators? The creators that we work with across Insta, TikTok, they likely don't have accounts, whereas those two likely have both, program or handles on both. Would love any recommendations that you might have.
Yeah, so this is the problem, right? The problem is Google gave Reddit this geyser of traffic. And if you look at Ahrefs and SEMrush, you see the hockey stick of like
Yeah,
they literally 7x their traffic in like the period of a month.
right.
And so the infrastructure doesn't exist. And so the influencers like TikTok, I think, again, that's the model, I think, for like this kind of social commerce. It's very similar. It's got search features like Reddit. So like that could be a model for Reddit to follow, but Reddit's not there
Hmm.
yet. And
Yeah,
so there is no clearinghouse of Reddit influence, which is why as a publisher, we started filling that gap. And because it's kind of similar to what we used to do. We used to find creators or writers and platform them on the website. And so now we're kind of doing the same thing. We're platforming them on Reddit. And the challenge with Reddit is you need, karma points, you need aged accounts, there's all sorts of nuances, do's and don'ts, and spoken and unspoken rules. And so we're building that playbook. And so we're basically finding the creators and platforming them in a profile that they can comment on the relevant
right.
threads. Because if you're just
Yep.
starting from zero as a creator, it's not, worth anything. And the challenge is the most high profile or highest karma Redditors, they don't know necessarily what their value is. There certainly are communities where you can kind of tell that they are starting to add affiliate links, storefront links, maybe they link off to a blog. So I think that cottage industry is developing, but it's informal, in the gray area, not officially sanctioned by Reddit. And
Right.
so we're kind of in this like, yeah, in between stage where the flip side is incredible opportunity,
Sure.
but it's informalized. And so we don't
Yeah.
have that level of, here's where you go to get Reddit, influencers.
Yeah, exactly. I also think there's an opportunity to combine and your Reddit strategy with your brand ambassador strategy and
Yeah.
your refer a friend program. And you know me, I think way out of the box. So you can like rein me in a lot of sometimes. But I think that just as you were saying, where or we, some of the reviews on Amazon are incented, and some of the reviews in different platforms and communities are incented, and we leverage creators for that. But I think your brand ambassadors could do a great job of building communities, starting communities, participating in communities, helping to increase brand equity and reputation.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Wow. I love this. I love seeing the question. So, Emma, thank you. Say you start posting organic content on Reddit to win back the AI overview. How would you track any performance from there? A custom landing page without UTM, so Reddit views it as organic.
Hmm. That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, so I think what Emma's as asking is how do you track the Reddit
Yeah.
link to the AI overview? Um, and I mean, ultimate test is a lot of these AI overviews will cite their sources. So there's not necessarily a way it'll kind of pick up the thread, right? And so, ideally, like we look at that, like we created content. Now we're ranking the AI overview, and this is the thread we created, and so you kind of attribute it that way. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about externally linking, yeah, you can use a custom landing page, but oftentimes when we're trying to influence the AI overview, we're not linking, we're not trying to, the attribution is the proof's in the pudding if you can change the sentiment. And again, most of these AI platforms and overviews, they won't exactly tell you, and some do better than others. Like Perplexity will sometimes literally underline the sentiment and reference like a footnote. This is the
Mm,
number one citation, the number five citation. I think that's going to be the trend more and more as people try to sanity check AI. They want to know, show your work, AI.
sure.
And
Yeah.
so that is the way to check it. And you see even YouTube videos, getting pulled into Perplexity, and it'll be like,
Yeah.
it'll say this brand generally people are saying, and it's like this one video
Yeah.
reference. You're like, okay, that's the sentiment where it's getting pulled from. But that's
Yeah.
ultimately where how we're tracking it. And then there's an emerging class of visibility tools that are now trying to measure what percentage of AI do you own, basically, with your branded terms.
Right. Interesting. You know, I know you and I have looked at that document that OpenAI put out earlier this year of where they're going to be pulling their data from. Do you think that we'll start to see more transparency like that? So affiliate marketers, we can start conquesting and making sure that we are building relationships to incent them, but then our content community teams are syndicating content there.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, I think it's a, I don't know. I think it's a, depending on what, like rose-colored glasses or not. Like, is AI gonna, they've already stolen all our
Right.
content, so I
Yeah.
don't, not a great start, right, for creators.
Yeah.
I think some engines like Perplexity are doing a better job of trying to incorporate publishers and trying to cite their sources a little bit more and kind of show their work. And there's other platforms that are just like anonymous. Hey, this is
Yeah.
somebody you don't even know. And I think ultimately consumers want to see the data, but who knows? Who knows where
Yeah.
it's going to head? The other thing I'm watching is like in a perfect world, how this I think should work if we want to keep a healthy publisher creator ecosystem would
Mhm.
be to have an intermediary like Cloudflare announced a marketplace that they're going to kind of try to set up, but they haven't seen any progress on it. Where when the AI crawls a publisher or any piece of content, there's like a little toll booth, and it says,
Oh,
"Oh, for
interesting.
X%, it's only use blockchain." I don't know how you do the attribution, but like we
Sure.
used this source 0.002% of the time, you get whatever pennies on it, like for that
Yeah.
piece of information. So that creates a value chain that then incentivizes creators to just create
Yeah.
authentic
Do what they do
content.
best. Yeah.
Yes. But that doesn't
Yeah.
exist today. And so what
Yeah.
we're doing, kind of our little workaround, is we're just saying, no, then we'll create the model. We'll say, look, we know our blogs are getting cited in these
Yeah.
landscapes. We're gonna go to those brands and say, hey, look,
Yeah.
we're helping you here. Like, can
Yeah.
we, and here's who do I send the invoice to?
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I remember when I read that ChatGPT announced it was getting in a relationship with Condé Nast, and I was like, okay, Condé Nast just rose to the top of my my recruitment list.
Yeah.
I see another question here, which is, and you're so perfect for answering this, being a moderator yourself, or how do you specifically go about Reddit and connecting with the moderators? How do you like to be connected with? And, in all kinds of scenarios, we talked about what if there is negative sentiment about a brand in your community? What if a brand would like to do a promotion? Is that something you ever allow?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, as a moderator, like I'm just running experiments all the time I
Oh,
have different
great.
communities, somewhere I'm more aggressive and somewhere I'm just interested in just running it. You just kind of see. I think the problem with Reddit is it's extremely balkanized and decentralized. So
Sure.
what works in one community is what works in one community. And what one moderator lets fly is what that moderator lets fly. And so it does take that reaching out, and we've had some success. I've even had some success reaching out to communities and be like, hey, will you be open to this or that? And I think that could be an emerging kind of pathway for
Hmm.
brands to work with those moderators directly. And again, to Reddit's, this is on Reddit, but they don't compensate moderators. And I think they're
Sure.
trying to, again, figure that out. Like,
Yeah.
do they get, is it a membership? Is it, how do you pay
Right.
these people that are doing amazing work curating all this
Hmm.
content for free, yet Reddit is benefiting, they're a public company now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think reaching out is a great idea. I think I don't have any like hard and fast rules again, because it's a super informalized
Sure.
network. And that's also the opportunity, because if
Yeah.
you're the brand that breaks through to that moderator and gets that sidebar placement or says, hey, can we help? I think the best, depending on what, again, you could come up against a moderator who's also like very commercial and mercenary, but most of them
Hmm.
I think would be like, never heard of you before. Like, are you spam, or are you trying to
Yeah.
like, but if you come at it like, hey, could we help? Love the work you're doing. Could we help sponsor your community with a
Hmm.
sidebar or something like that? Even $50 a month. Like, I think there's incredible value arbitrage there if you come at it like, love the community. Would you be okay if we sponsored, or it could be featured in your sidebar? I think if you're asking them to delete posts, that's a
Sure.
that's a challenge. I think most moderators on Reddit would probably be very resistant to just changing it because you asked. In fact, they would almost relish the idea of sticking it to you. Um, but I think so. Like, in terms of cleaning up results, I think that's gonna be a problem. They might offer you an opportunity to respond, or say, "Hey, we're opening up a thread. You can post your things you've changed in a new thread." So there's ways that maybe you can work with them in that. But I don't think
Yeah.
like asking them to remove
Sure.
negative content is going to fly.
I've seen it with some of like our clients that work with our fintech and crypto that work in the Discord community, and we do sponsor some of those folks, and we have built relationships where we sort of turn them into our brand ambassadors, and it's more of a flat fee placement than it
Yeah.
is your traditional paper performance. And Substack as well. I mean, if you can if it doesn't sound scalable, right? Because it's a long tail, and you have to, because it's decentralized as well, and you have to form a relationship with each one of the creators. But if the community is in the sphere of influence, or is in having lots of conversations where you need to be a part of that, then honing in on those individuals, building the relationships and testing out different affiliate like relationships, which might not be strictly pay per performance, could
Yeah.
just be flat fee, which we do with the digital media publications today, because they're not ranking in Google. A lot of that is media arbitrage, where
Yeah.
they have to go buy traffic from Google, and we have to pay them flat fee or a higher commission structure. So it takes effort, but it's, what's the word? They are, what's the impenetrable? And is that even
Yeah.
a word?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that even a word? Yes, exactly. So um it's I think with AI today, the buyer funnel, creators, communities, and forums just absolutely have to be a part of your brand strategy in general, but a part of your affiliate strategy, because that's what's showing up in Google. And more people are looking to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity
Yeah.
for their data and how they're consuming, how they're discovering their consumer, engaging, reviewing with brands, and buying products and services.
Yeah.
Would
Absolutely.
you agree?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. And I think just the note on the sidebars, I think like if you have like a performance or a flat fee or an ad, or you can add an affiliate tracking link or a tracking link. But I think it's just like the early internet, there was no marketplace, right, early on. And so there's just 50
yeah,
bucks for a sidebar, and the webmaster would say, oh, that's great. I
right,
paid my
yeah,
hosting bill. And same thing with Reddit.
exactly.
We're kind of in that infancy stage. So there's a ton of value. If you can land that, I
Yeah,
think affiliate is kind of a more mature, like traditional, like I'll pay you a percentage. They probably would be
sure.
so confusing for some of those moderators. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't trust that. How do I know you're going to pay me? Like,
Yeah,
just pay me a flat fee. They'd almost prefer that consistency and reliability.
sure.
And you might actually be getting an incredible below market value kind of performance there.
Well, it's time intensive, right? Moderate, like running a community,
Yeah.
moderating the community, very much like creators, right? They have to be compensation for their work and creating the content that they create, that we
Yes.
value so much. I like that Jason said, did you really just say webmaster? I loved it. Emma, I think, in terms of connecting with Reddit mods for commerce partnerships, I think we talked a little bit about that. And I mean, we're getting to the close. So if you feel like we didn't address it as deep enough, like certainly let's connect after. We'll make sure we get that answered from you coming from this guy who isn't on Reddit. Oh, Jason, you were the Reddit. Oh, okay. I love that. Well, we only have 2 minutes left here, so I hope we got to your questions. If you didn't get your questions in, or you're like taking a beat, taking it all in and have questions, we'll definitely answer them after. So don't feel like you can't connect with us. Okay, well, that concludes today's webinar. I hope it was of value. I always feel like when I chat with Ewan, like I have some light bulb moments and then my brain is just spinning with all the information. So thank you, Ewan, for all of your knowledge and sharing today. And we'd love to get your feedback about the webinar. So in a moment, we're going to give you a poll here. If you can answer that, will help us get better at providing information and sharing with all of you great attendees. And then before we conclude, I want to share a virtual event that we have coming up. It's super exciting. It's we're hosting a virtual roundtable for growth leaders next Wednesday, April 16th, and my colleague Mark Okian will be moderating the roundtable on how to attract and retain top marketing talent. We'll share the link in the chat here shortly. And you and I just want to take this quick moment to say thank you. It was
Thank you so
so,
much, Amy. It's always
oh,
fun. We can nerd
fun.
out for
Yeah,
hours and hours, as we do
we
sometimes in just
do.
meetings.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. And
so
I think we need to maybe have a follow-up on, everything's changing so quickly, but let's make sure that we follow up and learn about the attribution tools as they evolve and how this is maturing and some more successes and wins. I know you and I work on a client together where we are monetized. We built brand equity. We started a community, and now we're starting to drive affiliate sales. And so I think this group might love to see a case study once we get there.
would love to do that. That sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.